There, I'm Heidi with Food for Life and Nature's Sweetie, and today we're going to talk about making bone broth. And bone broth is very easy to make, and it's really good for you if you're trying to heal your gut, if you're following the GAPS diet, or if you just want to make some stock for general cooking and for soup making, then this is what you want to do. So, and you can use any bones, any chicken bones, fish bones, lamb bones, beef bones, whatever you've got. Or if you purchased a cow from a farmer, for example, you want to ask for the bones so that you can make your own stock. But zoom in over here, I'll show you what I've got. I've got my bones in the pot. These are actually beef bones, grass-fed beef bones, that I put in the pot with about 1/2 cup of vinegar. And I use Bragg apple cider vinegar. And I've already added this to the pot, and then I covered the bones up, which I let sit for about an hour. Now I'm going to boil the bones, and what we'll do is we're going to add these veggies. So stock is kind of about just cleaning out the fridge. So I've cut up a bunch of vegetables here. I had some onions, I had some ginger hanging out in my fridge. So I coarsely cut up the onions. And then I've got some shard stalks left here, some parsley and garlic chopped up. And I'm going to add that to my broth. And then I'm going to bring this to a boil. And we'll see you back then. Okay, so now we've got the broth a-boiling. If you want to zoom in over here, you'll see that we've got it at a rolling boil. I'm going to turn this down now to between medium-low, about medium-low. What we want to do is we want this to roll, and you want to see a little bit of a boil coming up as we move forward. And you can do stock for 3 to 4 hours, or you can do it for 3 to 4 days. I usually end up doing mine for a couple days just because I want to pull everything out of the bones. And at a low rolling boil on medium-low heat, that's what it does. And the vinegar that we put in actually helps to do that as well. Pulls all the gelatin out, which is really nutritious. And on top, you probably noticed when we zoomed in there, there's a little bit of scum forming on the top there. You can actually remove that if you like. I don't like to do it just because I like, you know, kind of lazy. Anyways, the reason why some recipes call to remove that is just for the broth clarity. There's no health issues about removing that. So with that, we're gonna let this go for a while, and then we'll be back to show you how to strain everything off. Thanks. Okay, so we have let our bone broth cook for a couple days, and you want to remember to at least cook the bone broth for 3 to 4 hours. I just like to let mine cook for a couple days. So anyway, we're gonna strain this now. I've already started here, as you can see. I poured some of it through the strainer. But all the broth comes out this way, and then we've got the bones in the bottom of the pot here. And so I just keep straining until I get all the liquid out, and our bones are staying in the pot right now. Once we get all of the liquid out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the bones, and I'm going to pick apart, let's see here, let's just grab one here. So I'm going to pick apart, take off this stuff and put it, I don't have a container here so I can't show you, but I'm going to store it, I'm going to feed it to my dog. And then some of the really nice meat parts like this, I'm going to set aside and use for my soup. And so we just go through this and take the meat off the bones, throw the bones into the garbage. Any marrow that's in the bones, you want to pull that out. It's very good for you. You can also blend it into your broth. And then once we're done with all this, we can, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the fridge to cool, and then we'll render the tallow to cook other vegetables and things. So that'll be our next step with the bone broth. We'll get done with this step, and I'll be back with you in a few minutes. So now we are ready to render the fat off of our broth. Okay, so as you can see here, I have put the broth in the fridge overnight. You can put it in for a few hours, it does the same thing. And so we're just gonna take the fat off the top, and I keep my tallow, but I have a lot right now, so I'm not gonna keep this. I'm actually gonna feed it to my chickens. But you can keep tallow in the freezer for several months, and it's great to use that to make vegetables such as beets and different things that you roast in the oven. It's very delicious and good for you. And you can leave some of the fat with the broth because that's healthy as well. So after I get done doing this, I won't go through all this, or I'll do this one. Then I'm gonna save the broth. I'm gonna use some of my broth to make soup, and you can check out my video on soup making. And then I'm gonna store this this portion here. So what we'll do is we get all the fat off of here, and then I'm going to store this broth, since I'm doing this one, in this plastic container over here. You can also use Ziploc bags or whatever storage that you'd like to freeze it, and then you'll have broth for the future. And so just to recap, what we did today in this video is, first of all, we got our bones. You can get those from the grocery store. Then we took the bones and covered them with water and added some vinegar and let them sit for about an hour, and then we boiled them. And you have the option of pulling the scum off the top. And after we boiled them, we let the broth cool, and you can cook bones from anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to 2 to 3 or 4 days, however long you like. And as you'll notice, I'm going to have you zoom in here. If you do a good job on your bone broth will be a little bit gelatiny. Sometimes, depending on the bones you have, it'll end up setting up more, but that's just from pulling all the gelatin out of the bones. And after we let the bones cool, you saw that we pulled all the meat off the bones and separated it and strained the broth, and then we let the fat set up. And that was it. So again, check out my video on making soup, because you've got your broth to do that now. I'm going to go ahead and pour this broth into here to use for later. And happy bone broth making. And again, just the health benefits of making your own stock is the stock is used for making soups, and it's really good, but just plain bone broth is really good for your intestinal health. It can heal the lining of your gut, and it's just very full of nutrition, and it fills you up. So that's the video on bone broth. This has been Heidi with Food for Life and naturesweetie.com. Thanks so much.